Alright, so day one, October is officially here, and there was a screening of A Quiet Place at the local art house theater. I haven't seen this one yet. I didn't check it out when it first came out. I wanted to. Something or other came up. I made excuses. I never ended up seeing it. But there was a special screening tonight at my local art house theater, so I got a chance to get the full theater experience. And if anything, I think it's better here than it would have been at a big theater. I like that it's a small crowd, so you can really hear everyone around you. You are keenly aware of the noise you are making and the noise that everyone else is making. So it adds to the anxiety of the film, because while the characters are trying to be as quiet as they can to avoid death, you are trying to be as quiet as you can to avoid ruining the experience for other people. You chew quietly, softly. Popcorn is the worst thing you can do in this movie. And the art house has incredibly creaky floors, so if you need to get up to go to the bathroom or whatever, oh man. Overall, I really think that adds to the experience tremendously, and I don't think I would have liked it as much if I'd seen it in a big theater. As it was, I enjoyed it for what it was. It was a little gimmicky. I mean, basically the entire movie is built around one gimmick. It's an interesting one, but I think it could have been done better. And really, I could pick apart little things, minute details, get super nerdy about it. There's always going to be shit like that in any horror movie, or any movie in general, but more often in horror movies. The thing that got to me the most was the ending. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, but it was disappointing to me. It was disappointing. I wanted something more. I don't know what. Honestly, I don't know how you can end this movie. It's not a movie that lends itself to a real, storybook ending in any way. But it just completely changed in tone and was so out of place. And literally the last frame of the movie, the last moment, just completely changed in tone. And it was just this sudden cliche, sudden super cheese wink and a nod ending after everything you've been through earlier. So that was disappointing. But ultimately it was worth seeing, and if you haven't seen it, I suggest you check it out. Day 2 I watched Diabolique, Henri Clouseau, 1955. This was an incredible movie. If you're a fan of Hitchcock or thrillers in general, this was great. This was absolutely great. It's a movie that apparently a lot of people like to compare to Psycho or claim that Hitchcock ripped off to make Psycho. But aside from a general tone of the film and the gimmicks in the marketing of the film, I really don't see a connection between them. I can see Hitchcock taking some influence from it, or at least sharing a similar style. Either way, I'm not complaining. It was well done. Though it's not technically a horror film, it had enough of a unsettling atmosphere to it that I feel it fits for the month. In fact, maybe it's just because I'm so conditioned by modern horror films, but the ending sequence, throughout the entire ending sequence of this movie, I kept anticipating and waiting for the inevitable jump scare. And I had to remind myself, wait, this is a 50s movie from France. They didn't do that. And it didn't need one. Andrew pointed something out to me after watching it, since he's seen it before. The movie takes on a totally different tone when you know what happens. It allows you to watch the movie from a totally different perspective and see things you wouldn't have seen the first time. Chugging along, day 3. I watched The Brood, 1979, David Cronenberg, with Oliver Reed. I love Oliver Reed. He's amazing. Every October needs a good Cronenberg, and this was wonderful. This was not necessarily early Cronenberg, but I mean it predates like The Fly and Scanners and a lot of more Videodrome and Crash and a lot of things that he's really more known for. But he's also known for body horror, and this definitely had body horror. Though not a whole lot till the very end. There was this wonderful reveal. I mean, you knew it was coming. It was kind of batshit when you really think about what exactly was going on. And a lot of it's still kind of unexplained. Like, the guy with the goiter he never really got any particular justice. I don't know, it was odd, but it worked. It was fun. The creature design for the mutant children was great. It's just subtle things. I mean, they aged up the hands and gave them those weird kind of gremlin faces. The noises they made were just perfect. Ah, it was a fun one. If you haven't seen it, I'd suggest you check it out. It's Cronenberg. Come on. Moving right along, day 4. I just finished watching The Fog, 1979, John Carpenter, Jamie Lee Curtis, Adrienne Barbeau. A lot of fun. It's a shorter one, too. Had a bit of a slow start to it, but right around the 30-minute mark or so, things start to get really intriguing and pull you through. It was a good ghost story, a good nautical ghost story. Everybody loves pirate ghosts, right? One thing that was bothering me throughout it, though, is how disjointed the information was. Like, how disjointed the storyline was between characters. It was like there wasn't a common character who knew all the information. Like, we knew everything that was happening, because as viewers we have an omniscient view of the action, but there's like all these different characters who knew little bits and pieces about what was happening, but nobody had the full story, and yet by the end of the movie it seemed like everybody understood, even though they never shared what they knew with each other. It's a little odd. Something that seems like a little bit of an oversight, maybe something that they took for granted. But that's just a pointless nitpick. Overall, it was still enjoyable and classic John Carpenter. Day 5, I got a late start on watching and wanted something that I didn't need to pay too close of attention to. So with The Lost Boys. This is one of those movies that's so prevalent in pop culture that I felt like I'd seen it already, but in actuality, I don't think I ever actually watched the whole thing. So, it was interesting, to say the least. I couldn't stand Corey Feldman. I really couldn't. That voice, that obnoxious voice he was using, and it seemed to get deeper and grittier with every scene he was in. I wanted to facepalm so hard every time he spoke. It annoyed me. Other than that, it was great. It was perfectly wonderful. It bled 80s. It was beautiful. Uh, but the Coreys were a staple of the 80s as well, so you gotta take the good with the bad. I almost missed this one, but I made it through. I'm only 6 days in. I'm not gonna fail this marathon now. The Wasp Woman. I picked something that was shorter so that I could get through it without falling asleep, because it's very late. It was very interesting. I mean, it's Roger Corman, 1960. Roger Corman. Pretty interesting, actually. In that the main villain was a woman, who's also the main protagonist, pretty much through most of it. Interesting character, actually, when you really look into it. And the actress too, Susan Cabot. Apparently, rather odd, interesting career. She did a bunch of movies all throughout the 50s, ending with this one. Didn't do really anything else after Wasp Woman. But she apparently loved Roger Corman because he allowed her to do things that other directors wouldn't. Allowed her to play oddball characters or wasp women. Something that your average director wouldn't have the guts to do. All in all, movie's a bit of a slow build and not a whole lot of payoff, really. It's a couple of scenes of transformation. Actually, there's never even transformation. It's literally just they cut to her and she's fully wasped, I guess. It's not very well explained. I don't know. Apparently there was a remake in '95. I might need to check that out. Very, very interesting little piece of Corman history. All right. Good night.